Life is sacrosanct. It is a gift and is the most important gift God gave to mankind. Why? Three answers. One, it is prerequisite to the enjoyment of any other utility that you probably want to enjoy. If you want to get married, you need to be alive to get married. If you want to get a girlfriend, you need to be alive to get a girlfriend. And if you want to be a billionaire, you need to be alive to get those billions. Two, once lost, life can never be regained. What that particularly means that anything that prevents people from losing their lives willingly is something that is principally justified. But three, it is a communal gift. That is to say that at the point where somebody is alive, he benefits other people. So for example, your father is alive and he's taking care of you. At the point where he dies, your whole family struggles, everybody around you struggles at that particular point in time. From opening government, we say that the lives of men, women, children, people all around the world must be protected. And the side that best protects these said individuals is the side that most likely is going to be able to win this debate. A couple of things on framing. On both sides of the house, this well-meaning individual is not going to go to jail. Two reasons. The first reason is because it's already been established in the evil side that this individual is somebody who probably did it out of an accident. At the point where we have epistemic knowledge or access to this particular information, it's most likely something that the courts most likely know. It means that even if you kill somebody, the truth of the matter is that if it's an accident, you will go home without any criminal charges. It means that on both sides of the house, that guy will not go to prison anyway. It means that on our side of the house, the only thing that's different is that we are getting somebody who commits crime willingly, killing billions of people at every single point in time, and constantly getting away with that particular crime. We're going to get that individual and throw him into jail. With principally that is justified. We're going to prove why that is much better. But let's establish intent. Notice that for somebody who consistently kills people, because the info slide says that he has killed numerous people and he gets away with that particular thing in the first place, it means that two things. Number one, that individual is somebody who has a tendency of violence and likely to kill people around him if he's left to it. But secondly, he probably has access to things like resources and money to get good lawyers who will take him out of jail anytime, who's probably going to get him into opposition who will most likely be innocent anyway. It means that he's going to kill people, and if we don't do anything, that gets him into a position where he must be punished, incarcerated, or killed at a particular point in time. That individual is most likely going to continue killing many people. The best response you're going to get to this case from this side is to say that, oh, he didn't commit this crime in this particular scenario, so why should he particularly be punished for this particular crime? The principle here is one, that is on the principle of retaliation. That time in, time out, he's killed people, he's hurt their families, he's hurt these individuals, and he gets away with it. We think even if you are doing something bad to him, principally it is legitimate because you are doing what he's been doing to people in times past. Principally that is justified. Or take any POI for closing.
Yes, so if someone hits your daughter's head 4 times and you hit his head twice, is it a great thing to do?
If I'll do anything to prevent him from hitting my daughter's head 4 times again, I'll do it. Especially if my daughter dies from it. Let's move it. So at that particular point, I think that's principally good. Let's move on. Because the most likely thing I'm going to get from this side as well is that at the point in time where these individuals actually like get in a position where he's been framed, you're most likely going to be caught. So this is the problem here. The first problem here is that at the point in time where the info slide says the circumstantial and forensic evidence point to a situation where you can actually frame this individual, it means that on the balance of probabilities, there's a high likelihood that the courts are likely to believe that that particular thing is believable, that he committed that crime. It means that most likely this individual is most likely going to go to jail anyway. We're going to put him in prison. It means that in a definite situation in outside of the world, we stop this individual from killing people and getting away with it. We think principally that is justified. But let's move on to the next argument. We think on utility, we prevent more people from losing their lives. We think principally that is beneficial. Let's move on to the harms principle. Let's analyze this panel. We think on both sides of the house, this guy has committed crimes and has killed hundreds and thousands of people anyway. Maybe it's not hundreds and thousands. Maybe it's 100 people. Maybe it's 50 people. But we think principally people have lost their lives. At a point in time where the action that these guys are going to do is going to be such a way that this individual gets away from that particular what's the word? Hardship is supposed to face at a particular point in time. We think he's most likely going to continuously evade the law, etc. But let's move on to the next thing. Because the most likely response you're going to get, the most likely case you're going to get from the other side as well, then becomes a response on why they think most likely individuals in the system of law and order should literally do things that are principally justified and are consistent. That is to say, that don't deviate from the norm. We think in status quo, things like plea deals exist. which is to say that when an individual commits a crime, he can literally go to the police officer and say, I'm going to confess, and he gets lesser punishment for these things in the first place. The reason why the state doesn't care about things like closure at that point in time, and they give that person little punishment at that particular point in time, is due to the utility, the justice that they get, the more criminals that they can put in jail, etc. We think principle, even if this is a wrong thing, it is justified because it prevents more people from dying. This is in line with the principle of utility upon which the state's calculus on decision making is made, which is to say that we make exceptions at a particular point in time. This is a great exception because people don't lose their lives. We protect these individuals from getting a particular point in the first place. But the last analysis here is an analysis of why it benefits you. We think this is somebody who has literally avoided justice. He's been running away from the law ever since he started killing people. Let's say for 20 years, this individual is somebody who has never gotten punished for his criminal, for his crimes at that particular point in time. Why is this good for you? At the point that you frame this individual and you put him in jail, you become the prosecutor that put a hardened criminal in prison. That gives your job, that gives your profession a much higher boost, because it means then that you've done what other lawyers before you could have never done. Principally, that's justified because your career is most likely to succeed at a particular point in time. You've done the unstoppable, you've done the undoable. I'll take a last play while if you guys have any questions.
Yeah. So you still haven't explained why can't you open an independent investigation into this guy? Why
the reason why we won't do that is because he has avoided punishment for a very long time. We think, look, the motion statement technicalities. What that means is that whereas information probably does exist, there are technicalities that get him out of it. What the motion fiats here today is that we have information that can bring him down. Two things: maybe he doesn't succeed. We think it's justified because it's an attempt at putting a criminal behind bars. But in the case that it does succeed, it's a beneficial thing because you prevented him from killing millions of people. Whether it succeeds or it doesn't succeed, the very attempt of doing these things is principally justified. We think that's a good thing. At the last point, at the end of this debate, the calculus remains the same. On their side of the world, nobody goes to prison. On our side of the world, we take an advantage of a situation and we put somebody who probably deserves to go to prison into prison. Don't let anybody lie to you that they will punish this mere guy on this side. It's not going to happen. We are the only side that seeks justice for the people who have been evaded justice by this criminal who consistently avoids the law, and this is a good thing. Proud.
We welcome the leader of all tribes. Oh guys, check the phone. And I hope you are learning a lot from the round.
Speakers, please ask the few rights of the microphone.
I just
Okay. I'm about to start my speech. So, this guy's speech hinges on the criminal will go to jail, and that's his entire speech. But he doesn't prove why the criminal will actually go to jail. Because listen to his own speech. The evidence in of itself is not going to end up sending this innocent guy to jail, this well-being guy to jail. But that same evidence, for some reason, will send the guy that has a lot of lawyers, the guy that has a lot of money, he will send that person to jail. Secondly, this guy has consistently been escaping out of the basis of legal technicalities. The legal technicalities is even much more on his side now, because there is something that he can do to be able to escape. Simply say he wasn't there.
at that time he was chilling somewhere. That is evidence enough, and this is true because he was actually chilling somewhere, and he can be able to provide the evidence to prove it. So even if your evidence is incriminating, there is a lot of non-incriminating evidence that will actually send this person out of jail. So it means at the end of the day, he doesn't get any of the things that he decides to get in that regard. But the third thing is that recognize that there is a possibility you would frame and would not succeed in the framing in sending this person to jail. The worst thing you want to do is to become the enemy of a killer who would not go to jail. Because when you become the enemy of that killer, you will be hot. When he comes out, he will look for you. Even if you end up putting him in jail, his people, his goons, his friend that can see that this one there, our boss didn't do it, will come after you. You will die. Your family will die. You will suffer. They will consistently persecute you. If you're a wise person, don't do this. Let the person face the law. And the person indeed has to go to jail, you go to jail. If the person doesn't have to go to jail, you go to jail. Like, if the person won't go to jail, then there's nothing that has really like harmed anyone at the end of the day. If you are really wise and you want to protect your life, you engage in this thing in that regard. But the final thing then is that in the case whereby you fail, it is actually good for the supposed killer, because now you give him good PR. Because what you come and say is that, look at all of the past cases. They were framing me. The world is against me. Me, I am the good person. Look at this guy. He knew I didn't do it and he framed it against me, like all the past people. The worst thing you want to do for a killer that has bad PR is to give him good PR that allows him to be able to get access to much more spaces. If he's indeed a killer, he will kill more and he will kill you too on top. I'll take closing.
Yeah, so honestly, at best on your side, he doesn't go to jail. I don't see why that increases the level of threat exponentially, given that he's a criminal himself. Anyway, he doesn't like you as a cop.
Yeah, so first of all, probably he likes you because you are his guy. But then secondly, there is now much more evidence to know that you are an active enemy. You see, the previous times, you weren't really that much of an enemy. You were just doing your job. But right now, it is personal. Because you weren't just doing your job. Now you are coming for me. What that essentially means is that the threat is much more bigger and it's most likely going to do worse against you as a person. But equally, because of the sentimental feeling and the emotional feeling, that this one guy didn't do it and you want to do it against me, it is much more going to be heightened and that guy is going to come against you. But I have been engaging him in his best case scenario. Because the truth of the matter is that a lot of the time people get judged and we don't really know the extent to which they actually did the thing or not. The info slide says that he has escaped because of legal technicalities, but it never says that he's indeed a killer. First, he has to prove that he's actually a killer to be able to get access to that. If a judge who has been going to school, law school for a very, very long time, juries, that is their job, lawyers, that is their job, that have been going to school for a very, very long time, cannot prove that this guy actually did it. I don't know how much will come back and come and prove that this guy actually did it in that regard, because it is quite crucial. The reason why the barrier for proof for most of these things is very high, because it is unfair to make the barrier very low for a couple of reasons. One, if you go into jail, your life is fucked up. The extent to which you can be able to get a job after you come out of jail is significantly less. In certain jurisdictions, the penalty for death is death. It means you lose your life. It means that other individuals get the brunt of that punishment and you lose the important emotional connections that you have to get as an individual. What that essentially means is that if I accuse you of something that heinous, I must be able to prove without doubt that you actually did it. If you cannot prove without doubt that I actually did it, then there's actually a probability that I didn't do it. What does that mean? It means that there is a probability this guy that did not do it. Yet Matthew will send this guy to jail and punish this individual for something he is not certain that he did in that regard. It means that at the end of the day, in the pursuit of being the good guy, he ends up actually being the bad guy, and he's no different from this killer that he constantly speaks against.
Yeah, if your position is that criminals can kill you and your grandmother, then you shouldn't put any criminal in prison because they are supposed to come out.
Put them in prison. If you find out that they did it, put them in prison. That's our simple argument. But you don't know he did it or not, you want to put him in prison. Like, you are not sure, you want to put an innocent person in prison. See, and the final thing is that when people do actions and they commit certain crimes, they have to face the law. and we don't care whether you are kind-hearted. In fact, if you're a well-meaning person and kind-hearted person, why are you running away from the law? Why is that the guy is trying to help you out by bringing another person? You are not saying, oh no, I'm a good person, bring the evidence against me because I'll go away. You are an evil person if you want another person to go to jail on your behalf. I don't think that you as an individual should be allowed to escape. I'll take you for it.
Yes, so the evils like fiat that the evidence has found is forensic. Like it can be easily used. And with the probability of success of using that evidence is not complete.
This guy, there's some guy, the O.J. Simpson or something. Forensic evidence, plenty. Last night he didn't go to jail, you know why? Because the glove didn't fit. You can bring forensic evidence. It won't do anything. And do you know why this is something that is important? One, he has gotten out of legal technicalities in the past. But secondly, you have forensic evidence that he was there. He also has forensic evidence that he was not there. Him to his thumbprint was at a party whereby he was enjoying. His fingerprints are there. He has all those forensic evidence. You have to prove that your forensic evidence is forensic evidence than his forensic evidence, which you cannot do in that regard. And for that reason, you win in that regard. At the end of today's debate, we prove to you that one, there is no certainty he committed the crimes in the past, and for that reason, you should not put people in prison just based on an idea, or just because of how you feel, or just because of what you've seen in the past. You must be certain that he has committed a crime, and therefore because of that lack of uncertainty, we are not sure. The second thing is that if he indeed committed a crime, the worst thing you can do is that as an individual, you now create a sentimental enemy out of this person. We are proud to be open opposition.
Tell the leader of all for the fine speech. Welcome the deputy prime minister. Thank you.
Maju. Oh, okay.
We have seen the shot. We have seen it.
It's so small.
Alright, so I'll be starting my speech. In 3, 2.
Just watch out for him.
Hey, guys, I will put you in jail.
I'll be starting my speech in 3, 2, 1. So the opening opposition accuses us of not being sure of the guy committing the crime, and hence we shouldn't put or frame him up. The first thing you need to understand is that when there's a wide social opinion about something, regardless of its truth value, there is still a perceptive harm that exists. It means that even if you are not sure once the info site says that people believe him to be doing a lot of harmful things, we think it is in the best interest of the state to make sure that this guy is punished. So Ebonua has not caused anyone any harm. He said 25th December, the flag will come. He didn't say 2025, he didn't say 2026, but he's still being in court, he's still being tried for because of the things that he said and any other thing. It means that once there's a social opinion on a subject, we think that it is a responsibility of the state to pursue that subject. It means that even if we are not sure of putting him in jail, which is their most important case, at least you can add up to the mounting evidence. It means that in the near future, we might be able to grab him and give him longer term because of the mounting evidence that exists, right? We've tackled a lot of the things that they brought, right? Second thing, he says, forensic evidence. See, we cannot have a back and forth over which forensic evidence is accurate. There's political scapegoating. Like I said, once there's a social opinion about that guy, we can sacrifice him then to make sure that the public is safe. We don't think that it's a wrong thing to do. Every state does it and we think that it is justified as long as we are protecting public safety and public order. That is the most important responsibility of the legal system. And for that reason, we think it is justified. Political PR. See, there was no notorious criminal more than Atai. When he was caught, there were several back and forth and things like that. But then at the end of the day, he was sent into jail. His accomplice, who was repairing his motor, who never participated in the process, was also sent to jail, unfortunately. But then he was compensated and things like that. Even if there's injury and the state is at fault, we think we can compensate him in the near future. We don't think that it is anything out of the ordinary to do. I have 5 responses to these guys. Number 1, establishment of fault. Once there is forensic evidence against this guy, whether he did it or not, we've been able to establish a fault scientifically that links to him or could link to him. We think that we can pursue that case on that grounds. Number 2, establishment of innocence of the well-meaning man. It means that once the info slide fears that this guy did it out of innocence and even accident and might not be like intentional or intent, that could be a reason why we can exonerate that guy, something that they ignore in today's debate. Thirdly, the principle of retaliation. When there's a public belief that this guy has been killing a lot of people, it means that there's fear and panic in society. That is an active threat against the state. Why? Because individuals who live in the state, from the state, right? There's no Ghana except for all of us here and the other 33 million people who exist in the borders of Ghana. It means that once people believe that this guy is harming the public, it means that the state has a responsibility to protect itself against some of these notorious criminals, which is alleged or like true. We don't think that we should allow this guy to go. Whether he goes to jail or not, I think I've explained that, right? We can add up to the mounting evidence. If this one succeeds, we think we'll thank God. If it doesn't succeed, next time we'll try again and we'll catch him. Thirdly, he will come after you. This is the most preposterous argument I heard from them. So don't punish Atai because he has accomplices who will come after you. What the hell? It means that we should leave every criminal that exists in our society. It means that every form of like stealing, embezzlement, all of these things should be allowed to persist in society just because these guys will retaliate. But then secondly, these guys have state protection. Except this guy is much more resourced than the government of Ghana or the army of Ghana to pursue these people. Every judge has indemnification and protection under the 1990 Constitution. It means that we are safe. Then, okay, yeah, see you.
Yeah, so the motion says he's not been to jail, not for lack of evidence, but for legal technicalities. Are you certain there is no legal technicality in this instance?
The point is that I'm not going to argue legal technicality. That's what my partner said, right? There's preponderance of probability. It means that is it more likely that you did it or you didn't do it? That is also a legal technicality that could be used against you. The fact that you use legal technicalities to escape in the past doesn't mean that another legal technicality cannot be used to punish you, right? Everybody has legal knowledge, right? The fact that you succeeded in the past doesn't mean that they are going to succeed now. And the reason most likely that he gets away with some of these things could be because of things like political connections and things like that. Let's handle that because that would be most likely their biggest case, right? You need to understand that a lot of these notorious criminals are able to escape because they have links with politicians who do some of their dirty work and things like that. The reason why this thing is important then is because these people are treated as mercenaries. Because if they are caught, your reputation is also caught with them. The reason why this is a much more compelling argument or grounds upon this thing is because most likely the murder case is something that is going to catch the public attention. It means that everyone most likely will try to listen to it and be interested in it. Given given that you establish that there's a prior social like opinion on this guy, it means that it's more likely that the state will be on our side more than on the other side, right? The reason why this is important then is because then no politician would want to be dragged down the mud because of this notorious criminal who is believed to be socially awkward. It means that once we have public opinion against him, we can use it and there's no political connection that can protect him. Probably the reason why in the past we are not able to catch him is because a lot of these guns are not strong enough to capture social opinion. So for example, last year there was a murder case on campus where a guy murdered his girlfriend. Everybody in KNST was against that guy simply because he murdered a level 300 girl who they were supposed to have gone to learn and things like that. We think murder cases are very much important, and once there's like some form of accident that's probably caused the death of someone, it means that there's far more likely grounds that we are going to punish this guy. Do you have any other POI?
POI.
Yeah, let's go.
Gaston, you're a very, very good man. But there is an untrue social perception about you that you are chasing small girls. Mm-hmm. Does it mean that we should ban you from KDS even when we are not certain it is true or not?
Yes. Because social opinion, whether true or not, still has value. See. Tenaku is the tribal chief. I don't know which tribe, but everyone is celebrating him because we've accepted him as a tribal chief. Maybe the tribe of, I don't know, Wakanda or something. But the fact that we've accepted him doesn't deny the fact that he's a tribal chief, whether it is true or not. We can't be arguing along these grounds, right? Secondly, justice exists to serve the society. Once we've been able to establish that we'll be able to protect the public in terms of their safety and their security, we think it is better for us to prosecute this guy. Whether we succeed or not is out of the question. The question lies in whether it is right or wrong to put this guy through this process because he's believed to be a notorious criminal. We think it is right because social opinion is very much important. We need to protect people's sanity. We need to protect people's mindset and things like that. But then secondly, on the principle of utilitarianism, once we have been able to establish that a lot of people would feel good about this thing, we think it is better, right? But then lastly, is it really wrong to put this guy into jail? We don't think it is wrong. Why? Because he's probably killed a lot of people, and legal technicalities has been the reason why he has evaded prison. We think it is time for him to also go to prison and also feel the pain that people have to feel because of the things that he said, because of the things that he did and subjected people to, right? At the end of today's debate, there's one more question that we need to answer. Is it right to frame a notorious guy? We think it is right, whether the evidence is against him or not. Once there's forensic data, we can use that against him.
It's on. It's on. Okay.
I thought you checked whether everything was working.
Oh.
Hello.
Okay. I begin my speech in 3, 2, 1. Panel, the difference between the jungle, anarchy, and so many states that exist without law is the fact that there are people existent that uphold principles. They uphold laws that made up the state in of itself. They respect these structures and they believe that at no point in time should these structures be overturned because of certain circumstances that are beyond their control. Panel, principles and laws exist for a reason. When we give a world whereby people can decide when, and they can pick and choose when they would abide by the law or not abide by the law, it becomes problematic. And given that these individuals in of itself are the representation of the law, prosecution of itself, it means then the problematic nature of this thing has been exacerbated. As side opposition, we are against this because of the principle that exists around this thing of itself. But before that, first thing to note, science is not absolute. The existence of forensic evidence does not automatically mean that the individual in of itself would be caught or would be imprisoned. But another thing to note then, SciGov has not sufficiently proven to you that this individual would be successfully prosecuted, given that the circumstances have not changed beyond the fact that forensic evidence has been acquired. But note, from the info slide, evidence was never the problem as to how come the person was never prosecuted. It was always based on certain technicalities that the prosecution could not overcome. Given that these technicalities in of itself, which are framed as legal, have not changed given the info slide, the burden on site gov was to show that this person's chances of being prosecuted has increased, given regardless of the fact that certain harms would be existed with the prosecution of this individual. Now to our matter. Oh, I'll take you later. Now to our matter then. First thing, this individual is a prosecutor. The person most likely has a strong sense of justice. That is why they pursue the career of prosecution. They go through taking of oaths. They read law materials. They have a strong sense of justice, and they are characterized by the fact that they want justice to be meted out. That is why this individual even has this dilemma in the first place as to whether or not they should take up the case against the criminal or not to take up the case, and the other alternative of not taking up the case in general. Panel, it means this individual is someone who psychologically respects the law, respects certain... Yes.
So, having knowledge of the justice system also means that there are some cases that are unique that has not been captured in case law. That is why there's more reason why you punish this individual, because it also becomes grounds to prevent further crimes and using those technicalities against these people. That's the more reason why he needs to be punished.
Yeah, thank you for the POI, but I still didn't answer the question of how the legal technicalities that exist in the info slide down. Continuing. Second then, it is very ridiculous to say because of social perception people should be punished. Panel, a lot of people in this room might not like me, and maybe my presence makes them uncomfortable and makes them feel very, very bad about themselves. That is not reason enough for me to be charged in the court of law. The point that Dasha was making was that this individual has a certain social perception around him, and he gave many examples to prove it. But it doesn't mean then just because certain individuals are uncomfortable with you, we should now make certain provisions within the law to put you into jail or criminalize you. That in of itself is not enough reason as to why people should be punished. But thirdly, panel note that OG again did not sufficiently prove how this is in the best interest of the individual, and that's how come we win today's debate. Why is it in the best interest of this individual to take a side step, not to engage the issue, or at best let the man go through the legal process in of itself? Panel, we believe that mentally it is in the best interest of this individual not to do this because of the existence of the uncertainty that this person is actually a criminal. Because in the info I said, he's believed to have notoriously been a criminal. But even if it is true and he is actually a criminal, we do not think that this person who is in the midst of his career of prosecution should take the risk of framing someone and the truth getting out there that he actually did frame the person and it could be detrimental to his career. But before that, closing POI. Yes.
Yeah, in one breath you say that, oh, they didn't do it, maybe it's whatever. But in another breath you say that evidence exists, but they get away on technicalities. How do you prove that technicalities will exist in this situation? Attempt it. I justify the attempt.
Panel, it's an even if thing. Even, let's say he was not actually the criminal. He wasn't the one who did all the bad things that we talked about. It is bad for this person to be punished and to be framed to be framed and put into prison. But secondly, even if he did do it, we do not think this is the right channel in which the prosecutor should pass through because of the moral code that abides by the career and the profession that he chose. This individual, and I've sufficiently proven to you, or has a strong sense of justice of itself and wants to go according to how laws are meted out. But thirdly, the difference between how other places or other anarchist places exist and how states exist is the fact that he puts certain people in power to abide by the rules. We do not think that in a world whereby a person in such a high position of law, given the option, should choose to overturn the law that makes him who he is in of itself. We think this has a likelihood of creating a slippery slope. When does it end then? It's a notorious criminal now. What would it be tomorrow? We think the existence of these possible repercussions is something that we are against from side opposition, and it's more exacerbated given the fact that it's a prosecutor. But another thing I've taken a lot of POIs from you guys. But another thing to note then is Henaku's speech on how the uncertainty of this man going to prison has a direct possible harm to the individual. How so? Panel note, the difference between then and now is that the individual knows that you intentionally framed them. You intentionally cultivated evidence against them. And this individual is most likely a psychopath, because it's only a psychopath that would go on a rampage of killing individuals with notoriously without any grounded reasons why. that even if this individual is not that high of a criminal, we think the person is still bad, just assuming that yes, he did do the bad things that he did. The difference now is you're actively framing the person, and the person is aware that they didn't do that particular crime. Maybe they did all other crimes, but not that particular one. We think now you're giving the person basis or reasons to target you as well. We think the existence of that in of itself is a net harm that would affect the individual. At the end of today's debate, we believe if the argument is going to be about principle, it is honest on side job to realize that the person that overturns the principle most is their side, because this individual is someone who must abide by the law. But secondly, if there is a concession that this innocent man would not go to prison regardless, that we think that it is best to leave the case and not pursue a work whereby someone could potentially be imprisoned for the crime that they didn't commit. But thirdly, the possible harm that could come directly to the individual is something that we are against, given that this is an ACTA motion. But another thing then is the fact that structures exist for a reason. Constitutions and laws abide a country for a reason. We do not think that there should be gray areas or situations whereby they are overturned just because we are displeased with how things work. But finally, given that the situation has not changed, aside the fact that there's forensic evidence, and this forensic evidence is not absolute that the individual will be in prison, we do not think this is a decision that the individual, the prosecutor, should take, and we believe on any day we are proud to oppose that world. Proud. I bombed it inside. Be honest.
That brings us to the end
And how you being honest?
opening house. Would the right member of that start the case in the closing house? Yeah.
Okay, listen. Yeah. I think they target that. Sorry. Oh, sorry guys.
Okay. Whoever is monitoring, I'm audible, right? Okay. Ready when you are. Woo. All right. Starting my speech now. So let's take a look at the wording of the motion very well. It says that this house willed. It's not talking about what you should do. It's a question about what the actor will most likely do. It's different. Here is why. Because when we are asking a question of should you go to school or you shouldn't, you try to analyze probably the outcomes of it. You try to analyze probably what's morally good or bad, like these guys are trying to analyze. This guy says you should not do it because you don't know whether this notorious criminal is actually complicit in this particular accident. This guy says you should do it because if you do that, you are preventing more harm. So it's a conversation about what you should do. But that's not the debate. The debate is about what you will do as the actor. The reason why this is the difference, what you will do is most likely emanating from what your reflex most likely would be, i.e. at the point of decision making, what does the context really look like? What are your basic values as a human being? And what are your interests? Those particular things are going to push or going to help you make a decision as like what you are going to be doing. Because please guys, because the motion is an actor motion. The info slide said you are the prosecutor, not the state. Because if you heard Gashon's words very well, he tells you that it is in the interest of the state to probably go ahead and catch this particular criminal. You need to prove why you as the prosecutor, you have the same interest as the state. They never did that. So they have not satisfied the motion as an actor motion. So aside from closing arguments, we are going to prove to you what the decision-making calculus of this prosecutor at this point in time most likely is and why he will most likely frame the notorious criminal, even if he shouldn't. That's the debate. So now let's come into the characterization of what this particular prosecutor most likely is. So we don't think he's a strict prosecutor, because if he was a strict prosecutor, he would want to abide by the law. It means that he wouldn't even be in a dilemma of whether he should frame or whether he should not frame. What does that mean? It means then that he's still having a part of him that is very human in nature, a part of him that is a little bit divorced from the principles they are taught as prosecutors in that particular sense. But notice, he's not still an average person. He still has some very core belief that is imbibed in him by virtue of his profession as a prosecutor, which normally has to do with the fact that you are always putting down the bad guys. Because the idea of why you would want to become a prosecutor normally is not just that you are trying to prevent harmful incidents from happening. The biggest idea is I am trying to like keep the bad guys out of the system. I'm trying to put them down. That is the idea here. And what does that mean then? It means then that if we prove on our side, we are actually going to give you the mechanism. If we prove on our side how we are better able to now put down one very important notorious criminal, then you have been able to, by your selfishness, satisfy or have that kind of satisfaction that comes with being able to achieve one goal, which was to put down bad guys. But now let's get into the characterization of who a notorious criminal is and what they really looks like, or how their work really looks like. It will outframe opening opposition. One is that if someone is a notorious criminal, it most likely means that they are the mastermind of the organization, or probably the leader of the organization in that particular sense. But two, because they are almost always wanted, they don't leave traces behind, for Christ's sake. What does that mean then, or imply to the opening opposition case? They can't have a counter evidence that carry forensics to counter the evidence that we have here from closing government. Because if he's actually a notorious criminal, he wouldn't necessarily want to be walking around where there are CCTV cameras. Even though there are CCTV cameras, they would they would necessarily want to black out all these particular places. So they definitely wouldn't be having the evidence that counters where they were at a point in time. They are notorious criminals. They are actually on the run. So I don't really know why they would want to do that. But two, what does that characterization imply? It implies that even if you are not necessarily, it implies that one evidence would work, because the motion doesn't just, the info slide doesn't just say that you have forensic evidence. Something important these guys missed is that it goes ahead to say that it can be easily used. The key word is easily used to necessarily get in. No, just saying that there is forensic evidence bring the doubts that these guys actually brought about. But two, these guys had a counter claim that there's probably a counter evidence. They never actually responded to how those particular counter evidences will most likely not exist. They prove that it will most likely not exist. But two, what that also implies is that what that also implies is that go. I'm sorry.
Can you
pause this time?
Yeah. So what that don't worry. What that also implies is that most likely there is going to be success. But the most important thing here is that why has he been a notorious criminal that have escaped so many justices? The ending of the info slide says technical legalities or legal technicalities. These guys say, that's the CO extension, we know. So here's how we are actually going to solve that particular clash from the opening half. It does not say that legal technicalities won in the presence of evidence. Because understand the reason why most notorious criminals are able to go scot-free. It is because the evidence you probably have is very, very, very shaky. But two, they planned their crimes, so it means that they most likely leave no traces behind in that particular sense. Which makes it more and more difficult for you to be able to do what? Prosecute them. Because there is now an evidence that can easily make them be charged as criminals. Here, it is not about likelihood or probability of he being the one that did it. It is forensic, meaning that it is absolute. Umu says forensics are not absolute. But hey, the judge doesn't really know that. He's not a scientist. You are saying that because you are a scientist. But the truth is, if we did a DNA test and it said that the child in your womb is Dela's own, everyone would believe that it's Dela's own. Because we believe in how these forensics actually work. We think it is the final resolution when people are having a little bit of disagreement on what actually is then. What that basically means then is we are the side that tries to mechanize to you why this evidence would successfully be able to get this particular criminal in jail in that particular sense. But second most important thing is to understand the nature of humans, that we are selfish. So you always want to averse risk in that particular sense. That is the reason why probably when you are hungry, by reflex you want to get food to get satisfaction in that particular sense. What does that imply? You are, as a prosecutor, that is probably having this notorious criminal in your neighborhood. Every day you wake up, you are in constant threat of this particular notorious criminal probably coming after your relatives, because you probably are very, very much protected, like OG says. But you do care about your relatives. You don't want them to be the next victims of the notorious criminal. This selfish nature is the reason why, by reflex, you'd want to put down that particular notorious criminal. We are glad to fulfill the burdens of the nation.
We welcome member of PNA.
So I'll begin this with a disclaimer for the first years. I'm going to do certain things your trainers would ask you not to do, but I hope this is a good example of times to do certain things. So we disagree with most of OO because they just doubt the info slide for the most part. The info slide says he's a notorious criminal, 1, and 2, people believe him to be a murderer. They cannot say he's not a criminal because there is no evidence. The info slide cannot give you a list of all the crimes he's been to get that tag. But secondly, they also say that, well, the same people that the info slide says believe him to be a murderer would somehow, some way believe that he's just a victim of the state, possibly because of just one extra case that was lost against him in that particular instance. Then they say it's going to be emotional, that you are persecuting him. All criminals are emotional because the moment you come for them, you are destroying their business. I don't know why this emotion of I didn't do it and I'm being framed for doing it is greater than all the other emotions that literally exist in all the previous cases against him particularly. So the info slide already says that there is evidence that can be used to frame the criminal. Then they say, oh, he has an alibi that he was not there. I think if the lawyer knew that, the prosecutor knew that his alibi was so great, then it wouldn't be easy to frame him. So that this particular motion would not even exist. Secondly, CG is also doing something that is also grave because the manual literally says that actor motions are not about predicting likely behavior, but rather what conforms to the values and interests of the actor. So I think the top half really had, that's debate. So it's not really like a point of entry into the debate. What is our point of entry into the debate? We are going to explain to them, I'm going to take their best case scenario, which is the fact that there is really a bad person who has done a lot of bad things in the world, and that person should be put away for the good of society. You can agree with either of them whether he would actually go there or not go there. You still win over that class because we explain that they are not going to get justice if that's what they want to pursue. So I'll begin this by explaining the types of murder. One, you have first degree murder, which is intentional and premeditated killing, which most likely gets you life imprisonment or very long sentences. You also have second degree, which is intentional but not premeditated, probably like crimes of passion, but you are going to get 5 years or so. But they consider the fact that you didn't premeditate, you didn't plan it. And thirdly, manslaughter, which is what the debate is about, which is an accidental killing, which means you didn't plan to kill the person, but secondly, neither did you actually intend to kill the person in the heat of the moment. It could be an accident. Maybe you are a mechanic, you forgot to really screw the tie on well, and the person goes in an accident, you are driving, or anything at all that can connote an accident. Maybe you slap them and then they died. All of these things could be in it. But the important thing here is that the maximum is usually 5 years, and even in that, it doesn't go beyond 10 years or whatever. So the first question is, if the person is really bad, if the person has killed so many people and people are really afraid of them, why are you going to give them 5 years? Why are you going to fight for the justice system to give such a person 5 years? But you know what's interesting? These people, because it's also manslaughter, which means you are probably a good person and this happened by accident. You can enter payroll systems, community service too. Also get your term to be reduced. So in actuality, one, they might not get the full 5 years, which is the maximum, but secondly, they can also engage in some of these things and get lesser sentences in that particular instance. So one, they are looking for justice for a very bad person. They are going to give the person 3 years. That's really not debate winning in that particular instance. But the second thing then is, why should you, the prosecutor, why is it in your interest to allow the good person to be able to go through the course of the law? For the same reasons I've given to you about manslaughter, it means that one, the consideration should be made for that particular well-meaning person. So the fact that it was an accident, the fact that everybody knows you to be good, which means that the jury in most instances will consider all of these things. You might even, like most people even get like not guilty verdicts for like a manslaughter case because of the dynamics of that particular case. Like, so for example, maybe if you're holding a gun and you shot and killed a person, you might get a guilty verdict. But maybe you're not even holding a gun, you just like were a friendly banter and the person just died and you are framed for manslaughter, you can get a not guilty verdict. So this good person, for all that we believe to be true and know about good person, might even get a not guilty verdict. So it's really not a comparison of this person is obviously going to go to jail and we need good people in our society, so let's sacrifice it for the person. But I think if you understand that the person is good and if they believe that the prosecutor also loves the justice system and the justice system wants criminals, then it's also in their interest to let this particular person experience the law so that they can say that the law protects people against like themselves or against community in this particular instance. This has very good benefits for the law, and this is important for the other because he is a person of the law, and we all know how they are. They believe in the law. They believe that even people that are criminals deserve their rights and deserve to experience the law, and so they defend them and all of these things. I'll take a peer before I continue.
So you need to understand that as long as we be able to charge him on an offense, we can revisit a lot of the crimes that we couldn't establish a good evidence against.
Thank you very much. I asked the PI on this very issue to Matthew, that if the person is a notorious criminal, why don't you open an independent investigation against him? That's not mutually exclusive. Like, you can open that, and when he's right, then we also win, because you can open an independent there. The difference is that when you open an independent like revisitation of all the previous cases and appeal them or whatever that his PI sees to do, you get that 20 years, 10 years, 50 years. That is commensurate to the kind of bad person this guy is. We don't, for the purpose of, don't give the person 2 years. That's my case. If the person is so bad, persecute him, commit all your life, commit all the resources in your arsenal, and get him 50 and 60 years imprisonment. These 2 years will not do anything to anybody. All their impacts fall flat in it. The last thing then is, if you care about the glory that they talk about, then you do it the right way, no matter the time. And I think we are generally just pretty content with the fact that you keep on fighting for this particular person to be put behind bars, and we are very happy to be able to do that. If it takes a longer number of time, then the glory that you get at the end of the day becomes even important to you. Not only you give them a meager 2 or 3 years, that glory is not even short-lived, but particularly because it's just difficult to do, because you have to convince the innocent, the person who did the actual manslaughter, to keep mute. The good person, tell him, Charlie, I'm going to frame it on this guy so that you can walk scot-free. But so don't talk about it. That's also difficult because you have to also deal with the person's own moral compass and how the person wants to be perceived. Maybe bribe him, which means you are adding more to your crime. So if Umu is right and someday magically you have found out you've committed so many crimes like bribery, telling the innocent person to keep quiet, and you probably don't want to do this in this round, why do we win this debate overall? I think we just engage their best case scenario, which is the fact that there's a bad person that wants to be put behind bars. If you really want that, then you are not going to want to get them 2 years, 3 years, because that doesn't change anything. They will have access to their resources and they are after to commit crimes when they come out of jail. But for these cases, we put them 60, 70 life imprisonment so that we prevent them from becoming very harmful in society. 2 years is not enough. Thank you.
Member of for the very fine speech. Welcome back with close education the government.
Yeah.
Start with and a lot like
All right. Hey, Charlie, I better put you on timer. All right. I'll prioritize you guys. So, say you go talk.
Charlie, it's in Sana All right, let's start now. I think the first thing we need to make clear is that Kojo cannot just come and say he's a man of the law, so he cares about the law, and then that's the only proof that across the entire debate that this guy is some strict stickler for the law and like he goes by the rules and every single thing. Like honestly, check your notes. That's the only thing anybody in this debate has said to explain why this person is some extreme like follower of the law and does not understand pragmatism and cannot probably outweigh a way on the utility of certain decisions and then make a decision then at that point in time. Given then that does not exist within the round, a lot of the argumentation around principality is wrong and stuff like that does not work within the round. I think that is very succinct and clear. The second base then is on what the most likely value system of this person is, because that's what Genesis was saying. So Genesis was not saying this is a predictive debate. What Genesis was saying was that for you to evaluate the debate, you need to understand what the person's value system is and then explain to the people judging the round why the decision you are saying the person would make aligns most with the person's value system. So it's not that predict what the person would do, is that tell me, Manford cares about, I don't know, like sex, grades, and money. Tell me why the decision you are telling him to make will give him sex, grades, money. It is not that predicts that you make X decision, is that tell us that decision will align with those things. Why are we the team that satisfies that? And like, so I'm going to give you our path to victory first and now explain why it beats all other teams. Uniquely, what we first explain is what his value system most likely looks like. We are the most reasonable team in this debate. Do you know why? On this side, this people think that the guy is an extreme pragmatist. All he cares about is that, he's a bad person, take him in no matter what like the principles around may be. That's not what we think it is. It's unlikely. Of the 8 billion people on the planet, I don't think even 1% of them are extreme sticklers for things like that. It's very rare that you get that person. So it's unlikely that the actor in this debate is that person. But on this side also, they are very extremists. He's a man of the law. He wants the law. That's all. Again, most people are not like that. But 3 reasons Genesis gave you about why most people are not like that. The first is in the debate itself. If it is true that that's the kind of person he was, this dilemma will not exist. Because he won't even consider the possibility of framing somebody for somebody else's crime in the first place. Based off of that alone, that thing on he says man of the law is a law, does not work. Yeah. The second bit then is on the nature of the job itself. See, for someone who's been in these types of job for a long time, what Matthew says is true. You've seen things like plea bargains happen. You've begun to analyze the principles surrounding a CGS, and you've probably gotten enough perspective to understand that some of these things are things that have a greater goal in mind. That is to say, maybe let's protect people. That's potentially what still drives you to do your job in that instance. Notice they do not say this in their speech. They say the state cares about this. They don't explain why you likely also think like the way the state thinks. What we've explained to you is why most likely you've gotten to a point where you've been able to understand the principles behind some of these laws. So you understand that we take murderers into prison for 20 years because we don't want people to die, but we take pickpockets into prison for maybe 6 months because it's not that bad a crime and things like that. So ultimately, the second thing then is that the job has taught you that ultimately the CGS is a utilitarian tool. Roland, this is very clear. Ultimately, CGS is a utilitarian tool, and we think that you most likely understand this. Likelihood again, nobody explained it within the round. Final thing on why you are unlikely to do this is what he tells you in his last minute. Kojo did not hear it. What he told you in his last minute is that ultimately everybody's moral system is guided by an inner selfish perspective. That is to say, even for most Christians today who read their Bible and stuff like that, they all interpret it from the specific lens from which they were born, from the specific perspective that matters to them the most. That's why rich people will quote parts of the Bible that justify riches, and poor people will quote the parts of the Bible that justify poverty. So morality, even though it's a global thing, universal thing, most people interpret it from a personal incentive or a personal point of view. What is the personal point of view he explains to you? Maybe you as a cop do not care as much about the danger of like someone like a criminal being in public, because you are a cop, you are probably protected, you have cop training, you can fight. But it's a danger to the people you care about in a society. They do not say this, and that specifically means that moral framework is more pertinent to you, that you want that guy out of society, not anybody else. That guy, the most notorious guy of them all.
The second bit then is that this piece of analysis, the moral framework thing, flips the argument. I'm coming. Flips the thing they say on the danger to you being a deterrent to you pursuing him. Kojo is right. We don't understand why there's anything unique to it. But let me explain to you even more conclusively, and it beats the response these guys give, because these guys say, oh, then don't pursue any criminal. Like, it's a hand-wavy response. The response here is this: you know the dangers surrounding a job before you chose it. It likely means that the dangers surrounding a job are an occupational hazard to you. They do not change your decision making in any specific way. Crucially, then, we reach our opening. We reach 002 on CO. Then CO's extension is that, oh, he'll get 5 years, so don't put him in prison. Ask them, what is the comparative? He doesn't go to prison. Right? And Jonah, tell me the truth. Between going to prison for 5 years, 2 years, 6 months, and not going to prison at all, which of them is worse? That's the first part. The second part is he says, oh, then open other investigations. Crucially, Joanna, they did not tell us why you cannot do those two things. Why can't you first of all arrest him for 5 years, and then while he's in prison and his goons are weak, his organization is collapsing because the people are going haywire, like Enapu says. While all of those things are going to sit, then you take advantage of the weakness of him being in jail and the weakness of his organization to then pursue these things. So crucially, there's no explanation on their side on why you shouldn't do these things or why it is mutually exclusive. There's no delta on CO. Now then, finally, why we win this debate, independent of outcomes, because they'll say maybe you don't have to convict him. An a priori reason to conviction, that is to say, even whether or not he'll be convicted, the first major thing is what he explains to you in his last minute. And I'm repeating this again because I said it in the last minute, and maybe you didn't hear it, maybe there was noise. The thing about it is this: you do not know whether he'll be arrested or not. But what you do know is that the longer he stays, the more the danger to the people you care about rises. What you do know is that the longer he stays and feels unscathed and feels like he's the boss and nobody can do anything to him, the more notorious he gets. Crucially then, when you have the opportunity to peg his wings, make him feel like, maybe this thing I have to calm down, maybe I have to switch cities because the city is becoming hostile to me, all of those things. When you have that opportunity, it's an a priori benefit that you take that opportunity, because when you do not take it and he commits a crime against somebody, you feel responsible because you had a chance to protect those people by taking him out and you did not do it. Crucially, CG takes the round. I'm a half man.
Don't worry. Okay. Okay, so I want to make something very clear. I'm going to prove that there's a very close comparative between CG and OG. The only difference is CG did not take a POI from any team. The manual says that it's now mandatory for each speaker to take a POI. And if they don't take a POI, if there is a close comparative, you can give it to the other team. And so there's no way they will win. Let's try to be smart in this debate. Follow up. Their only case is this: that he is probably a crooked cop because he's not so strict. That's why we have this. You know, if he's not so strict, he's more likely to even take a bribe from a rich person. He's more likely to be even afraid of this person in the very first place. Secondly, this is a very low-class prosecutor. Do you know why? When the state is preparing for a murder case of such a person, they don't bring normal prosecutors. Look at those who are going to bring back Ken Oforiatta. They don't bring someone who has committed just one murder. Note, and bringing the charges against the well-meaning man, the state prioritizes very new, inexperienced prosecutors because, like Kojo said, this man is already someone that has most likely been caught and has accepted that he committed the crime because he's a well-meaning man. That means they don't waste their resources to bring really experienced prosecutors, given that this case in itself is already a done deal and this person has been arraigned for court. What does a low-class prosecutor look like? They usually don't have a lot of money, and if he's not so strict, he's more likely to be bribed. B, he doesn't have things like judicial mansions and wealth. It means that the person is really selfish. Will you consider placating a criminal and making millions as a young prosecutor, or putting that person in jail? Third funny thing they say is we don't have a comparative. I don't know if it's because debate hasn't been going on for a long time. These guys don't know how debate works anymore. Up teams in an actor debate should not give you comparatives. This is not a policy debate, and so it's really I'm really unsure why they are winning in this debate. Now let me do the close comparative between them and opening, and why opening will beat them just because they didn't take a POI. This is it. Their only case is that this person wants to prevent harm to people and to their family. So maybe you are protected, but your family is not protected. The first thing is that it is family versus the world. On scope, opening beats them. There is no way they will beat opening. Secondly, in terms of glory, you get more glory by protecting so many people as opposed to protecting 2 or 3 people in your family. Third thing, I'm intentionally not going to respond to opening government. So once I respond to them, their case has less credibility and opening government has more credibility. Witness protection is done for legal officers and their dependents and their relatives. Once you are a legal officer, you can put them in witness protection. This means that if he cares about only a few amount of people, have you seen the size of the judicial mansions? There are 7 bedrooms, 10 bedrooms. It's not like they give everybody a single room and only you are protected and all your family is not harmed. It's easy to get them things like going to school abroad, all of that. I have not responded to opening government. So opening government stands true. I've responded to closing government. Closing government has lost the debate. Let's go to the opening house. I would say this, that there's a funny contradiction in their case. Genesis says, don't say what the person most likely should do. Say what the person most likely will do. Yeah. What will they do? They are not really strict. If they are not, and I want you to think about this really clearly. If they are not really strict, I don't know why pursuing the law would be on the books for them. Have you met a police officer at a traffic stop who is not really strict? You can say, you don't really have your fire extinguisher, you bring 10 cedis. And that's the comparative, right? They have to show why that is the exact thing. I think OO is struggling a bit simply because they do not really understand the precipitates of the info style. We win this debate because we are the only team that tells you what the legal technicality is in the debate. Why does this team lose again? Let me reference something Matthew said. Matthew mentioned to you that once a case is opened and someone is unbound to go to jail, they can accept to have done all their previous crimes in a plea deal, so the trial does not take a lot of time. What does this mean? It means you cannot take him to court over any other thing once he accepts a plea deal under this circumstance. It means that if he is brought after 2 or 3 years, you cannot take him back to court because he has already admitted to everything he has done and has gone. You are not really smart.
Escape a crime on grounds of legal technicality. You should know the series of events before you can pull out the technicality. 2 things. 1, he was not involved. It means he most likely does not have all of the information. 2, the court updates their things, so the loopholes are most likely progressively protected. And that's why we have a higher chance of putting in.
What loophole has been protected? Let's be serious. You can't say it has been likely protected and not show one loophole. Is it that I can't even think about loophole that way. Our constitution has not been amended in like 70 years. I'm sure as to who is covering that loophole and who gave them the mandate to do that. But more so, let's think about his question very clinically. They say as a whole that on our side he doesn't go to prison. Our case is simple, that you would regret this on a selfish metric. I'm taking that for the last time to show why they don't win this debate. If you are selfish and you have a well-meaning man, you know how those goody people are. One day you see that guy on Zion Felix saying, I killed a person. My conscience cannot do this anymore. It is me. The prosecutor said I should take 5,000 and go home. But I can't do it anymore. It is me. Kojo tells you that in silencing the man, you'd have committed a crime and obstructed justice. It means then you have the likelihood of doing things like losing your license, because there's a good man and good people don't even care about themselves, so they care about the society. On a converse, on our side, when that man gets to do community service, he gets to contribute to society, which is what a well-meaning person likes to do anyway. It means you're not harming the person. But lastly, what this does, if you do not mar this, because even if the public, these guys say the public will sympathize with the person, we say no matter what, you give them 2 years of community service. There is no way you stall their operations. And he says you can use 5 years to stall an operation. That's not how criminal organizations work. Easy see your way.